This is Mark Jernigan and I'm Nick Sutton. One common question heard often is, can I go to jail for not filing or paying my income taxes? Yes, under certain conditions the IRS can and will send you to prison. Most of the cases that I read, the sentences are 40+ months in a federal prison. So yes, if you haven't filed or if you've misrepresented your income on your tax return that you filed, I think you could be in a lot of trouble. The government has certain conditions that it must prove. What you don't want to do is to make any statement or perform any action that harms any possible defense to those conditions. If the threat of criminal charge is present, seek qualified representation immediately. Do not discuss your case with the IRS. The only rights you have are the ones that you assert. Assert your right to be represented.
We've handled several cases where the taxpayers face criminal prosecution. We've worked with taxpayers that have had charges filed against them, as well as cases where the IRS is evaluating the potential criminality of the taxpayer's behavior. A memorable case involved a taxpayer that was in tears. His first statement was, "They found me!" The IRS had found the taxpayer and it scared him to tears. This wasn't the first time this taxpayer had a run-in with the IRS. About a decade ago, he failed to file about a decade's worth of tax returns, and they found him then too. The IRS audited him, prepared returns on his behalf. At that point, the taxpayer went underground. About a decade later, he was in our office in tears. The IRS had assigned a 20+ year veteran revenue officer to his case. The revenue officer looked at the past 20 years' history and concluded that our client needed to be in handcuffs. We were brought in to manage this case. We were hired to keep this case from escalating. This was a compliance and collection case, not a criminal case. We immediately filed all past due tax returns. We implored the IRS to be reasonable. The taxpayer didn't keep any of the money he was supposed to remit to the IRS. The taxpayer had a seriously ill child. All taxes that were due were spent on medical care for this client's ill daughter. At the end of this case, we kept it a compliance and collections case. No criminal charges were filed.